There are one or two things which I specifically want the media's attention to be drawn. Since 22nd September, we have been getting in the Finance Ministry, Department of Revenue, getting information from the zonal levels on all items, but we've been closely monitoring 54 such items where we wanted to be sure that the prices are reduced, meaning the tax benefit is reaching the end consumer. 54 items. I'm not going to read each one of them out. And even as we say 54 items, you know, from 12 to 5, the rate reduction has happened. And from 28 to 18, rate reduction has happened on largely most of the goods. But in some cases, one or two went this way or that way. But 54 such daily use items we've been closely monitoring. Not in one has the tax not been, the benefit has not been passed. Not even in one item, the input that we've received from all the zones has the tax benefit not been passed to the consumer. There are, of course, one or two items like high-end cement, the Portland variety, on which there is an expected rate of passing on should happen, but it is less than that rate. It is that Portland variety of cement, which is called the Portland Pozzolana cement. It's called PPC. It is probably that one category which is far lesser than what should have been expected to be passed on. Now, when I say expected, in some few items where the input tax is more than the output, now that we've reduced the output, there will be some adjustment that the product will do before it reaches the consumer. So where it is expected to have 10 percentage points going as a benefit, it might end up having 8.25% being passed on actually because of the disparity which still continues to be in a very few set of items between the output tax and the input tax. So that expected rate is closer to what it should actually be passed on, but there will be 1 or 2 percentage differences. So except for that Portland variety of cement of 1 or 2 brands, all cement companies have reduced. So are milk and milk related items. So on these 54 particular items in which we have been getting inputs from the zonal areas, from the various zones of a field formation, we are convinced that on every such item, the benefits are being passed on to the consumer. In fact, I have the item-wise, what is the tax reduction, how much has gone to the consumer, by zone, which I have compiled for our benefit's sake, for all items, overall for all the zones. So we are convinced that the rate reduction is actually reaching the common people. And that is why I think a lot of people who belong to the sectors are commenting openly. And there is a compilation. You had Minister Ashwini Vaishnav talking about how some FDIs, how some investors have made remarks which are speaking about what is happening in these sectors. Particularly the automobile sector has been very vocal about transferring the rate cut and about how that has improved their sales. So actually I can go on reciting as to how many items have been dispatched. Just 1 or 2 instances. 3-wheeler dispatches grew by 5.5% year on year to 84,077 units, which is up from 79,683 units the previous year. 2-wheeler sales increased 21.60 lakh units. Hero Motors apparently saw the highest ever sales, monthly sales. And so is the passenger vehicle dispatch, which is 3.72 lakhs in September alone. Mind you, we are talking about only between September 22nd and 30th of September, although some of them had started giving it earlier onwards, but 3.72 lakh units have been dispatched in September. And overall, therefore, just in those 9 days, there's been a flurry of buying and selling. So every sector has come out. Similarly, tractors. After the cuts to 1.46 lakh units have been dispatched in September 2025. Month on month, it's about 64,332 units. Sales more than doubled in September for tractors. So you can item by item take about how the rate reduction has actually resulted in consumers increasing their purchase. Dealers in consumer durables have reported a doubling of sales in ACs on the very first day, which is 22nd September. So manufacturers indicated that pre-bookings had begun before the actual rollout itself, and inquiries surged. A major TV manufacturer reported 30 to 35% increase in TV sales on day one of GST 2.0, particularly with 43-inch and 55-inch models showing the highest jump. Electronics retail chain Vijay Sales, that company, saw more than 20% sale in their growth in that 1 month, which is effectively only 8 days. LG Electronics India also noted exponential growth in sales during the Navaratri season. So with the fast-moving consumer goods, particularly when food, personal care items, oils, and nutrition items have all gone up. There's just one data. There are a few that I can quote from that 55 zones from where we are collecting data. Very interesting. While 5% reduction happened, there are items which have actually benefited by receiving more than what has been given in the tax benefit. From 18, shampoo came down to 5. Actual decrease in shampoos, for instance, in the price based on average price reported by the various CGST zones is 12.36%. I'm taking that one example to show the intended benefit was 18 down to 5, which means about 11.02% if they have given whatever was expected to give. But it has actually touched 12.36%. That's a shampoo example. Similar example I will give you of talcum powders, where it has touched 11.77. Face powders, 12.22. There was one other very interesting item which I thought I should share because it has clinical diapers. Clinical diapers were reduced from 12 to 5%. And actually what people have found as decrease while buying it is 10.38%. We were expecting to have only about 6.25 worked out average, weighted average, but people have received in clinical diapers 10.38%. So is the change in many other items like table, kitchen and other household articles of iron, steel and copper, even household utensils. The expected weighted average, it was brought down from 12 to 5. Expected weighted average reduction, if passed on to the consumer, would have been absolutely justified, was 6.25. Now, actually what has been passed on is 10.24%. And that item is what? Table, kitchen, and other household articles of iron, steel, and copper, utensils also. All these, where you could have just passed on 6.25%, they have actually passed on 10.24%. So more than expected reduction in tax has happened, and at the consumer's hand, he is ending up paying what has been expected and some more too. So on those 54 items, another very interesting item, set of items I'd like to draw your attention. Toys like tricycles, scooters, pedals, cars, etc., including parts and accessories thereof, were reduced from 12 to 5. If they had passed on 6.25 as a weighted average itself, they would have done the justice. But 8.93% is what has actually been passed on all these items. Similar is the passing on of solar cookers, where 12 to 5 was the reduction, 6.25 would have been justified, but they have passed on 6.96. Another item which is very substantial, 12 to 5 was the reduction, but if they had given 6.25 would have been justified. They have actually passed on 9.19% of benefit to the consumer. And what is this one particular item? Umbrellas, sun umbrellas, including walking stick umbrellas, garden umbrellas, and similar such umbrellas. So item by item, I'm here to tell you that which is weighted average of the reduction which should have gone to the consumer is going, and more is also being passed on. So there is a remarkable impact of this set of new GST rate reductions that have happened, and every item that I've monitored which is of relevance for day-to-day life of common citizens, 54, and we still continue to monitor them, the benefit has been passed on to the consumers. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. अब हम आप लोगों से प्रश्न लेंगे, लेकिन उसके पहले आपसे एक अनुरोध है कि आप अपना एक प्रश्न पूछें जिससे ज्यादा से ज्यादा साथियों को मौका मिले। दूसरा, आप अपना नाम और अपने संस्थान का परिचय अवश्य दें। और मैं जैसा कि प्रोटोकॉल है, फर्स्ट रो से शुरू करूंगा। फर्स्ट रो में कोई प्रश्न नहीं है, सेकेंड रो में 22 नंबर।
मेरा सवाल है मैम, 54 आइटम्स की बात की जो कर रही हैं, इसमें क्या डेयरी आइटम्स भी हैं? क्योंकि कई डेयरी आइटम्स हैं जिसपे देखा गया है कि रेट, चूंकि मैं खरीदने भी जाता हूं रेगुलरली, तो उसमें रेट कम नहीं हुए हैं। बटर की बात कर लीजिए, ब्रेड की बात कर लीजिए, या जैसे मिल्क तो उसमें नहीं था जीएसटी में, लिहाजा मिल्क की दरें कम नहीं हुई। तो बाकी जो डेयरी आइटम्स हैं उस पर भी क्या आपकी निगरानी है? और दूसरा सवाल अश्विनी वैष्णव जी से है कि जो कहा है इन्होंने स्मार्टफोन का एक्सपोर्ट बढ़ा है यूएस को लेकर, तो क्या 50% टैरिफ लगने के बाद भी हमारा एक्सपोर्ट बढ़ा है स्मार्टफोन का? थैंक यू।
ठीक है, अगला 39।
नमस्कार, मेरा नाम कृष्ण मोहन शर्मा है, भारत एक्सप्रेस से मैं बोल रहा हूं। मैं फार्मास्यूटिकल एंड केमिकल एक ग्रे एरिया पहले था, आज भी है। हर व्यक्ति को दवाई की जरूरत होती है, चाहे वो बच्चे हो, बूढ़े हो, जवान हो, लेकिन दवाई की कीमतों में कहीं पे भी रिडक्शन नहीं हुआ है, बल्कि दवाई की कीमतें जो है वो लगातार बढ़ती जा रही हैं।
Hi, this is Pushpita from the New Indian Express. So their e-commerce sites were under scrutiny because they did not pass on the rates on certain items for TVs and all. And they were also, will there be any actions against those e-commerce platforms? Because they called it a technical glitch for that day, but the prices were high for us. So.
11, आप भी पूछें।
मैं तरुण शर्मा हूं, सवाल वित्त मंत्री और पीयूष गोयल सर से। मैम, जो जीएसटी का जो बेनिफिट है, क्या हम ये माने कि जो एक टैरिफ वॉर की वजह से जो इम्पैक्ट आ रहा था, वो जीएसटी की वजह से कहीं ना कहीं हम उसको कंपनसेट कर पाएंगे? क्योंकि कंजम्पशन जिस हिसाब से हम कह रहे हैं कि 30 लाख करोड़ से ज्यादा इस साल होगा। थैंक यू।
234।
I'm Nikunj Ohri from Reuters. Ma'am, you spoke about, and we are seeing skills and several. Nikunj from Reuters. We are seeing, like you said, we are seeing a lot of car sales happening and also consumer electronics. Do you see this as having an impact, even India's growth being higher than was government's expectation for this year, which is 6.3 to 6.8. So with these higher sales and pickup consumption, is that going to, are we going to see even higher growth rate this year?
मैं तरुण शर्मा हूं, जी। सवाल वित्त मंत्री और पीयूष गोयल सर से। मैं फार्मास्यूटिकल एंड केमिकल एक ग्रे एरिया पहले था, आज भी है। हर व्यक्ति को दवाई की जरूरत होती है, चाहे वो बच्चे हो, बूढ़े हो, जवान हो, लेकिन दवाई की कीमतें जो है वो लगातार बढ़ती जा रही हैं।
See, there was this question on dairy items. Yes, it is. There are a few dairy items which are part of the 54 that we are monitoring. For example, butter, cheese, ghee. I can give these three. Condensed milk, of course, was the one which was taxed earlier. Regular fresh milk was not. So for this milk, the rate has come down. But I'll tell you what the actual, even here it has come down, it is passed on to the consumer. Butter was anywhere between 12 and 18%. It was brought down to 5%. The weighted average with which we expect the decrease to be passed on lies somewhere between 6.25 to 11.02. Actual decrease in the ground is 6.47. So, if the rate has come down, it has come down because of rate tax cut, and because of the tax cut, the passing on also has happened. Where they were collecting 12 to 18, they are collecting 6.47. Ideally, it can even be brought down till 6.25. That is something on which we are engaging with them. But they have brought down the rate. It was 12 to 18% depending on the type. It is today at 6.47. That butter. Now ghee. Ghee was at 12. It was brought down to 5%. The weighted average and the expected rate which had to be passed on was 6.25. Actually, what is being passed on is about 5.97. We are again engaging with them. Where they were taxing 12%, they are now taxing only 5.97. But it is still slightly short of the 6.25 which they should have charged. But 5.97 in the place of 12 is the reduction. I will certainly put it before you. It might have to be brought down a bit more, on which we will work with them. But the information I'm getting from the zones is that when they were charging 12, they are now charging 5.97. So whether it is butter or ghee, similar is the item cheese. It was at 12%. It was brought down to 5. Ideally, weighted average is 6.25. They're still at 7.92. Where they were charging, they're charging 7.92. There is a reduction. To get it closer to the weighted average 6.25, there's some work to be done. So that is on the dairy question. Similar question of medicines. I've named an item, clinical diapers, gauzes, bandages are all being monitored. They're also drugs and medicines are also being monitored. I'll take the example of drugs and medicines, which were all at 12. We brought it down to 5%. Actually, today, they are being charged at 6.93. The weighted average should have been 6.25. If they brought down to 6.25, it would have been justifiable. They brought it down to 6.93. Again, it is far lower than 12% at which they were being taxed earlier. So that's the ground data that I have received. On drugs and medicines, I've already told you about clinical diapers, gauzes and bandages. So we are monitoring medical equipment, medicines and also equipments which are used for patients. You asked me about the tariff war. Is it a response to the tariff war? I think even on the day of the GST Council, when we came to the press, we very clearly said, this has been in the works for 1.5 years. Whoever thought of any tariff war at that time? And several group of ministers were working in these 1.5 years. And several group of these GOMs met again post the Government of India's package which was sent to the GST Council, which was sent to the group of ministers. So these are discussed at various levels at various times. So nowhere close to tariff war. This had to happen. This was waiting to happen for quite some time. It has happened now. And there was this one question saying, will it have an impact on growth? Am I right? Bloomberg, was it? Reuters. No, no, I won't speculate on what I'm expecting it to be. That is the job of the data collecting and also the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. But the environment after the launch of GST, next gen GST, you find it, you find in the shops, you find the consumption, and consumption is one of the things for growth. So I'm sure you will be able to better calculate than I would do.
4.
On the other, no, wait a minute.
Sorry.
There are questions for the other ministers.
One question was about smartphone exports. Yes, smartphone exports are increasing despite the geopolitical turbulence, and it will continue to grow.
E-commerce.
मित्रों, ई-कॉम बारे में बताया गया कि शायद कुछ दिनों के लिए कुछ आइटम्स पे आपने कहा कि प्राइस घटे नहीं थे। वैसे साधारणतः जो हम मॉनिटर कर रहे हैं, हमारा तो अनुभव ये रहा है कि नवरात्रि के कारण और त्योहारों के वातावरण में लगभग सभी ई कॉमर्स कंपनीज ने जीएसटी भी पास ऑन किया, उसके ऊपर कैश बोनसेस और डिस्काउंट्स भी साथ में दिए। लेकिन अगर कोई विशेष आपको जानकारी है, कोई साइट ने, कोई पर्टिकुलर ई कॉमर्स प्लेटफॉर्म ने पूरी बेनिफिट नहीं पास ऑन की हो कोई आइटम पे, तो अवश्य देना, उसके ऊपर कंज्यूमर विभाग कार्रवाई करता है, क्योंकि ये लगभग सभी ने, पूरे उद्योग जगत, पूरे व्यापार जगत ने हमको आश्वस्त किया था कि हम पूरा लाभ जीएसटी का पास ऑन करेंगे। और माननीय वित्त मंत्री जी के आंकड़ों से तो दिखता है कि उन्होंने जीएसटी बेनिफिट प्लस पास ऑन किया है। तो स्वाभाविक है कि इसका लाभ जनता तक पहुंचा है, जनता में उत्साह है। कभी कभार एक आध कोई आइटम में, क्योंकि ई कॉमर्स तो प्लेटफॉर्म होता है, वो स्वयं नहीं बेचता है कुछ, कोई जो सेलर है और उसमें लाखों सेलर्स होते हैं, एक आध कुछ केसेस हो तो जरूर हमें संज्ञान में लाना। ये यूएस टैरिफ्स का जो आपने किसी ने पूछा था, माननीय वित्त मंत्री जी ने ठीक कहा है, तो 1.5 साल से चल रहा था, तब तक तो इलेक्शन भी नहीं हुआ था यूएस में। लेकिन आपको बता दूं, ये प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी का संवेदनशील सोच थी। उन्होंने पहले तो जीएसटी लागू ही नहीं हो पा रहा था, 14% सीएजीआर कमिट किया स्टेट्स को और उसको निभाया। यानी 5 वर्षों में जो उनका पुराना सेल्स टैक्स, वैट और सर्विस टैक्स कलेक्शन था, वो सबको डबल का आश्वासन दिया 5 वर्षों में, और उसको पूरा कॉम्पेंसेट किया अगर किसका डबल नहीं हुआ। और जब इतनी कलेक्शन बढ़ गई, फॉर्मलाइजेशन ऑफ इकोनॉमी हुई, नौकरियां के साधन बढ़े, वो सबको मद्देनजर रखते हुए, जैसा टैक्स में भी वित्त मंत्री जी ने फरवरी में किया, उसी संवेदनशील उनकी सोच के कारण उन्होंने जीएसटी के बदलाव का सिलसिला 1.5 साल पहले से चुनाव के तुरंत बाद कर दिया।
थैंक यू सर। 4.
Ma'am, I'm Pragya from Times Now. My question to you is, the success of GST also is seen in the consumption figures. But this is also season, and there's a tendency in people to buy more, to buy new products. Will we see the same trend post festivities, post Diwali and everything else? And what are you going to do to ensure that at least the consistency will be there, so that there is an increase in the consumption and the GST figures?
2.
Almost similar question. Post-COVID, we saw there was a lot of revenge buying, revenge purchase by consumers because of the pent-up demand for a very prolonged period. With these GST cuts, how do we see this demand story, consumption story playing out for what kind of a period? What kind of a support would it provide to the growth overall?
13.
Thank you very much, ma'am. This is a related question. What is the government's estimate of, the total consumption boost expected from this exercise? Thank you.
76.
Thank you, sir. Sir, Manoj Parva, Reuters News Agency. Ma'am, you have given a huge bonanza to the consumers with the GST relief, but there is a Hello. Thank you. So, Manoj Kumar from Reuters News Agency. Sir, you have, ma'am, you have given a big bonanza to the consumers, definitely, so they are feeling a relief in the festival season. But there is a segment on the production side, particularly small manufacturers like textiles, leathers, so which have been hit hard by this US 50% tariffs, as well as this inverted duty structures, which are like 7 to 10%, so compared to Vietnam enjoying like 0%. So will there be also some relief to them also in view of these circumstances? Thank you.
17.
मैं मनोहर सिंह हूँ यूनिवार्ता से। मेरा भी सवाल इसी तरह का है, कंजम्पशन की जो चूंकि प्राइम मिनिस्टर ने लाल किले से अगस्त में ही घोषणा कर दी थी, तो लोगों ने डिमांड रोक रखी उम्मीद में कि हम जो है जब दिवाली से पहले या दिवाली के समय लागू होगा उस समय खरीदेंगे। तो एक तरह से एक्युमुलेटेड डिमांड का भी इस समय जो है और फेस्टिव डिमांड भी है, प्लस जो हमारा ऑटोमोबाइल है या इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स में अमेरिका का सबसे बड़ा बाजार था, उस पर भी प्रभाव पड़ा है। तो जो इस तरह से रिडक्शन है, जो प्राइस रिडक्शन है और डिमांड है, एक कितनी सस्टेनेबल है, और दूसरा इसका जो आपको संकेत मिल रहे होंगे इन्वेस्टमेंट के लिए, कंपनियां जो है नया इन्वेस्टमेंट करने के लिए कुछ उद्यत दिखती हैं या नहीं। और मैडम से एक पर्टिकुलर सवाल है कि आपने एपेलेट ट्रिब्यूनल जीएसटी का जो अभी फॉर्म कर दिया है, वो जो नाउ इट इज रनिंग, तो नए सिस्टम में क्लैरिटी कितनी है, डिस्प्यूट कितने आ रहे हैं, जरा इस पे भी इंसाइट अगर कुछ।
धन्यवाद। मनोहर जी एक सवाल अगर पूछेंगे तो अच्छा होगा। 9 नंबर और 262, इसके बाद हम उधर से आएंगे।
ऋषभ मैम,
प्लीज वेलकम। वेट, हाँ 9 चलिए।
ऋषभ भटनागर विद एनडीटीवी प्रॉफिट। Rishabh Bhatnagar with NDTV Profit, ma'am. Firstly, the reason for higher than expected price cuts in certain categories, you said. What could that rationale be? And till when, what sort of complaints have come in with regards to GST reform implementation, number and resolutions? And also, till when is this monitoring expected to go on?
You may have to repeat all your 3 questions. You just seem to be stringing too many things together.
Sorry. So the first one, the rationale on the higher than expected price cuts that have been passed on in certain products. And secondly, the monitoring of these GST reforms, these prices, till when is this expected? And the sort of complaints, any figures on complaints that have been coming in against retailers that have not passed this on.
Just your name, please, and which group are you representing?
Rishabh Bhatnagar with NDTV Profit.
Okay.
Hello, ma'am. Hello, sirs. Harsh Kumar from Business Standard. 2 questions. Ma'am, Consumer Affairs said that it has received around 4,000 complaints regarding this GST rate thing. So any action has been taken on those? Second is related to this tariff thing. A couple of MSMEs exporters are expecting some credit guarantee. So anything on the line in the future? Thank you.
Yes, we'll take answer. We will have answers.
I think with this answer, I'll be able to cover a few of you all who sort of had similar questions. So I hope you don't take it amiss if I say I've answered that already. I'm answering it now. About this pent-up demand, revenge purchases, festival season, tax reduction has not happened only for the season. Tax reduction is now onwards. So pent-up demands can happen. I remember very similar questions being asked post-COVID. People said, oh yes, pent-up demand, after that nobody will buy, after that will be as bad as COVID time. No, please. It is important for us to understand these tax reductions are required from the point of view of making the system a lot more nimble. Better collections means you have greater room, fiscal room to give back something. But now that the collections are improved and steadily we are touching almost close to 2 lakh crore gross collection per month, there is a reason for us to cut the rate also and give the benefit, pass on the benefit to the consumers. And all these items are mostly day-to-day items. Yes, you won't buy your car every year. But the fact remains, for that person who goes and buys it, it may be a lifetime's purchase. He gets a better rate. So this thing about the pent-up and purchases not happening was, once people got to know sometime late August that a GST with a proposal of considerable reduction in taxes is happening, they thought, yes, it's going to be a good reduction because PM also said it will be a good Deepavali gift. So people waited. It's a pent-up of 1 month, if anything. So let's not conflate things much beyond their actual. People waited once they got an inkling that there will be a reduction, and that was the pent-up which ended up on 22nd September. So beyond the point, if we build up on these pent-up demand, revenge, will it sustain, we'll not be on sound grounds. All of us should have a good understanding of what this is like and how it plays out. So will it sustain even afterwards, times now? Yes, as I said, it is something which is going to benefit every consumer on a day-to-day basis, and even on those rare once in a couple of years purchase, AC or a higher, better digital television and so on. So it will sustain. The consumption story will continue. Then you had this, will the consumption boost climate continue? This answers, all this which I've said now will answer that. And on Mano from Reuters asking question on US tariff and the inverted duty structure. Inverted duty structure aspect, I've answered it. We've corrected most of the inverted duty structure. In fact, if I have to speak about the next GST reforms, I said 3 things. One was the rate reduction accompanied by slab reduction. Second was looking at process simplification. Third was looking at classification anomalies which had to be gotten corrected. What I did not say, but which is also part of what we've done, is making inverted duty structures are all removed maximum. There can still be 1 or 2 items on which inversion is happening. That inversion is happening because we still have a lot more issues to iron out. We'll do that in the process. Inversion has been largely corrected, so that won't be. But on Manoj's, this particular question related to US tariff, I'll reserve it for Piyush Goyal ji to talk about. Univarta, I don't know how to respond. A virtuous cycle beginning with a tax reduction, leading to better consumption and greater demand, moves further for greater capacity increase by people who sell commodities. From there it increases investment. It is a part of the virtuous cycle. So if you were to forget 1, 2, 3 stages and say straight to the investment and tell us that are you doing this for increasing investment? Increasing investment inevitably will happen. But my first move is not for that. My first move is to make sure the benefit of a better collection reaches the common citizen. On the GST dispute redressal and tribunal, somebody did mention, I want to make sure that the dispute resolution mechanism is now all in place. The GST tribunal is working, being given the necessary office space, necessary manpower, and also the equipments which they will need. Everything is in place all over the country. And the tribunals have been established in every state in accordance with the state's requirement as to where they want it. If it is one state which wants 2 places, if it is 1 place, and the other places per their choice. Every place is per the state's choice. So that should actually take off and do very well. the dispute redressal. I was quite curious on this question by Rishabh Bhatnagar, NDTV. Profit. What is the rationale for higher than given tax rate being passed by companies? Now, first of all, I did give you stages by stages. If something was at 12 and it came down to 5, and if there are issues of input cost going up, and as a result of the input cost being higher, there would be some kind of a reduction in the actual tax that is being passed on because the output is being taxed far lesser. There will be a weighted average based on which we expect people to benefit and that benefit to be transferred. Sometimes there are manufacturers who think that beyond the weighted average they can go. They have not gone beyond what I have given. 12 to 5, they have not gone to 2. They are not saying, okay, I will only take 2% of tax. But within that realm of reaching 5, weighted average is what I am saying. They could have given this much because of tax at the input stage being different from tax at the output stage. But they've gone beyond the weighted average. So that's where they're passing on more than what you expect them to give because of the differential between the input tax and the output tax. So nowhere have they gone beyond what we have reduced. It'll be a utopian world, I would think, if that happens. But that is the answer for your first one, rationale for higher than. And the monitoring of complaints, what is the level of complaints received? I'd like to say this for all who asked about questions on consumer affairs, receiving complaints, how many have been attended to, and so on. See, the total number of cases which the consumer affairs have received, or complaints or grievances that they've received, is 3,169 grievances which have been received by the Department of Consumer Affairs. And 3,075 grievance of this 3,069, from that 3,075 grievances have been forwarded to nodal officer in the CBIC. Because about 94 of them, the grievances have been resolved at the Consumer Affairs Ministry's level itself. So 3,169 total grievances received, 94 sorted out by Department of Consumer Affairs themselves, 3,075 grievances have been forwarded to the nodal officer of CBIC, who has started handling it, and that is why if you go to the website, you will find in process. The grievance is in process. We are handling them. So I want to also assure that majority, at a first go, the preliminary first cut understanding of these grievances that we have is majority of the cases pertain to complainants have perceived the GST taxation cut to be like this, whereas it is something else, and they think, oh my, that is the number. Like this weighted average aspect, they probably didn't know. So as a result, they have come up with complaints. The Department of Consumer Affairs has been requested to enable a functionality in their portal itself, which will allow the nodal office and on the portal so that the nodal officer will be able to forward such complaints to the respective chief commissioners for the necessary examination and resolution. Because a complaint coming to Department of Consumer Affairs may be true, but probably true of that one zone and not of everybody else. So we are asking to give a functionality in the Consumer Affairs portal in which they will give us that information so that we can immediately pass it on to the principal commissioner who needs to handle that. So complaints are being handled, and this is how it goes, and that's for NDTV profit. The rest will go to Minister Piyush Goyal.
Thank you, Nirmala ji. Just one data point that seems to have omitted your attention. Otherwise, you wouldn't have asked that question about pent-up demand. In September 2025, the GST collection went up, gross GST collection went up by 9.1% compared to September. We are all aware that the GST collection of September is for purchases and sales done in August, which goes to show that even in August 25, after the Honorable Prime Minister announced that from Diwali you will have lower GST on almost every item, despite that our August trade in goods and services was 9.